believe those of us who have the capacity to lead and serve others should. In today's political climate, supporting work that empowers women and POC youth seems like a risk. When you think about social impact, you have to include those who are underserved and often overlooked. Statistically, there happens to be a lot of POC youth and women, and that's who I feel called to serve. Corporate and public sector, government, legislative, social impact is inevitable. However, it's not always intentional. My mission is to create a bridge between highly intelligent and skilled POC youth and corporations that value and benefit from their talents. The goal is to give them access to non-financial yet highly valuable access to the time, the network, and the mentorship. Large institutions and the private sector should contribute time, investment, network, and support to make social impact work more sustainable. Sustainable organizations require strong leadership. Corporations should consider how they can equip the leaders to better navigate future challenges. And in the public sector, it's important for legislators to provide infrastructure for sustainable impact. Some of the less discussed yet very critical forms of philanthropy come in the form of mentorship. How do you create that strong story for stakeholders? That deal flow, allowing these organizations to sit down and watch these philanthropic meetings and agreements and ask these critical questions. And my favorite, it's the financial literacy. When you're considering support an organization, there are several ways to do that. Time, set aside a little bit of that monthly so you can figure out some of your areas of expertise that could be shared within some of those valued communities that you want to see grow. Then you think about network. Who could you be bringing in, whether it's a deal or a board meeting, giving those access to people that you have in your space, matching those up. And then mentorship. Checking in on people. It's great to have the check, but how do you, know that they're having everything they need to see that through to the other side? One of those people who I'm inspired by is Colorado Senate President James Coleman. And so we sat down to discuss his perspective on corporate and private sector social good. We live in this environment where leaders are crumbling under the weight of their own ambitions. What makes you unique in your approach to politics, community, and servant leadership?
Their own ambitions. I like how you asked that question. Listen, I think ambition is good, but I think especially if you're running for public office, you have to remember that the people come first. You are elected because people took a ballot and filled a bubble in next to your name. That is why you're in office, and once you get in, you can't forget that. And so for me, I think the way I've been able to avoid focusing more on my personal selfish ambition is saying, remember where you came from, remember the people who invested in you, make sure you pay it back, but then also pay it forward. And that is what's kept me humble, as well as, the elders in our community. They remind me, they're like, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. And I'm just really grateful to those who've helped me become who I am. None more important than my family. My grandmother, she's 91, she'll be 92 in September, lives in Park Hill, still in the house we grew up in. Okay. And she always reminds me to remember from whence I come. I was blessed to be elected by my colleagues, by my chamber in the Senate as the Colorado Senate President. And in that capacity, I do two main things. One, we help create the laws that impact the lives of Coloradans across the state. And number two, we manage a roughly $38 billion budget that comes from when we go to the grocery store and we have sales tax, or you have a job and there's income tax. We get these funds from the taxpaying citizens of the state, and we use those funds for bettering the education system for our children, making sure that if individuals need access to health care, they can afford to do so by going to the local health care facility, by making sure that we have adequate transportation, as well as criminal justice system and public safety. All these things really make an impact in the state of Colorado, and I'm honored to do that work. When it comes to community improvement and social impact, I think money is super helpful. I know it is, right?
Yeah,
Having the
we need
resources is critical. But at the same time, I started an organization a while back called Black Capital Foundation. It is now, the model's been absorbed by our Office in Economic Development and International Trade at the state level.
Okay.
And it is within our minority business office where we provide technical support services for businesses in order to do the work. And the reason why I think that's critical, we have a lot of nonprofit organizations.
38,000.
38,000. Yes,
We have the most per capita.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot.
Yeah, we have a lot. And we know that they have a mission.
Yes.
We know that they have a vision. They even have goals and where they want to get to. But when it comes to operations, when it comes to the technical support services, they don't always have that. So I think what the most critical thing is making sure that they are sound financially, the things you're teaching our young people, that they have legal in place, that they have payroll in place, that they have accounting in place. When COVID hit and there was federal funds coming down to the state level, a lot of people didn't qualify because the qualifications were that you had to have a number of years under your belt or a number of years of books. And it's like, well, I haven't been quite keeping track of these things, but I've been doing the work, and they just didn't qualify. And so I think in order for us to have that social impact, that change within community, we have to have organizations that are doing good work but are sustainable because they are operationally sound. When it comes to social impact, ask yourself, is what you're wanting to do already being done somewhere else? Is it being done effectively? Is it being done within your city or your state? There's no need to recreate the wheel. And I think that's number one, because you can model off of whatever else is successful. That's one of the first questions we ask, Michelle, in the legislature when we're running a bill. We say, it's a great idea. Where is it already working? A lot of times it's not already in place because in Colorado, when we say progressive, it's not some far left ideology. It means we do things first, we do things radically, and that means it's strategic and it's tactical, but sometimes you don't have a model for that. But if you can find where is something like this already working, let me model after that success. I think another key component is collaboration. Everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody wants to get the credit. Everybody wants to get the funding, and there's not enough funding necessarily to always go around. And the funding that's there, we're fighting over crumbs. I had this philosophy of doing a reverse RFP, because usually some foundation has an RFP, they send it out and say, here's our mission, here's our vision, here's what we want to do. Who has a mission that is similar to what we're doing? Maybe it's a mission fit and we can fund you. Why is it that we as community and social impact organizations aren't coming together? Why is it we're not coming together and saying, here's the outcome we want. Here's what it costs in order for us to operate. Now, which of you foundations can fund that? Which of you corporations are willing to invest in that?
Being able to take corporate Fortune 100, Fortune 500 knowledge and expertise and package that up and bring that to the philanthropic space so they're able to run like a business.
Can you describe some non-financial investments you believe will create the better outcomes of organizations serving individuals in Colorado?
Absolutely. A lot of our organizations don't have legal representation.
Okay.
And so having pro bono legal representation, I think, is critical. There's a lot of law firms who want to help nonprofits set up their organizations, social impact organizations set up. You got to make sure you do that in accordance with state law and federal law. And so that can cost money, but there are folks who are willing to do that pro bono. I think that's one thing that folks can do that's not necessarily monetary, but is a service to be provided. And then the other services that I mentioned in terms of technical support, I think that's critical. That you have accounting firms who say, hey, look, we're willing to donate so many hours to help you get this set up, or payroll services, we want to help you set this up, we'll give you a discount. But it's not necessarily monetary based, it's focused on how do we support you in your business. A lot of businesses like Urban Leadership Foundation of Colorado, another social impact organization, just got a new space over off of 28th and Fairfax. Guess what they need? They need the space to be fixed up. They need new paint on the walls. They need new floors. They need it to be furnished. So who has a business like that can provide that in-kind contribution to support that organization?
Yes.
You want to start off with the mindset that you want to eliminate a problem, that your mission is not just to eliminate this problem. Vision is not to eliminate this problem, but your mission is to close your doors. Some people out there are like, wait a second, like I want to be here for a while. Your job is not to identify a problem and create a career off of a problem that is everlasting. Your job is to eliminate that problem, then move on to the next thing.
Correct.
So your true mission is to no longer need to exist, because it's no longer a problem. Every one of our kids is financially literate. Every one of our kids is on a path to build wealth. Every one of our kids is changing the trajectory of their family because of trillionaires. So that for me is what I think we should be focusing on when it comes to social impact organizations.
It makes sense to me. Definitely, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a short time, but make that good old impact so
That's
then
right.
our memory lives on well beyond the time that we spent. You've been directly responsible for achieving over 40 different laws and pieces of legislation being passed in Colorado. I'm curious, where do you see the biggest gap in creating transformations in communities across Colorado?
I truly believe the biggest gap is having access to monetary resources in order to be able to do the work. I was always taught, and unfortunately it's a real thing, that a lot of times in life you can only do what you can afford. And in our culture, there are people who really have found a way to make a whole meal with scraps. And so they might get a donation for $50 and somebody else get a donation for $1,000, and they're expected to do the exact same work as the person that got the $1,000 donation. Now, in real time, it's more like $1 million donation and a $10,000 donation, right? And so how do we get more resources for economic power in order to self-determine and have the resources we need? I think that's critical in terms of a gap for our community. And so you don't want to necessarily be beholden to other individuals outside of community who feel as if, well, this is the direction that we want to go. Well, this is what we want to do. Well, it's their money, so they can choose to do what they want to with it. We within our communities need to figure out a way to create that economic power so we can say, here's where we need to focus. And so I think across the state, across the country, if you're in a social impact organization, I think that is one of the biggest challenges, is making sure you have the resources, not just do the work, but to be sustainable so that whatever you're providing doesn't go away next year.
Correct. Yes, definitely. And some ideas of what sustainability looks like are going to be some conversations that we're having on this Trail Collective series. So how do you approach bias, inclusion, and equity in today's racially charged environment?
I just be me, just by being myself.
Boom.
You know? Yeah, you know, I think
Like,
people are, yes, correct.
Yeah.
I think people are concerned about being their authentic selves. I think for whatever reason, somewhere in life, someone or something happened where they felt like they had to code switch, or they had to mask who they were. And I think how you encounter and overcome bias is being your authentic self. I find, in not just within the Black community, but all cultures, most people don't necessarily care if you agree. They just want you to understand. Do you understand me? Do you understand where I come from, my background, my history, my culture? Do you understand some of the things that have happened that either put me in a position to be successful or put me at a deficit? Great. Agree or disagree, this is history. It really happened. And that happens for Black, that happens for white, that happens for all groups. So given that, if we take the time to understand one another, I think that's how we can overcome that bias as well. And that's what I've been able to do, building relationships. Then people open up a little bit more, and they might share things they might not have shared with you because they feel like they can have that comfort to do so, that you're relatable. So that's how I encounter bias, even in the legislature. When I see bias or prejudice or even acts of racism, I be me. And part of who I am as a man of faith is being forgiving, loving on people, but being honest and speaking truth to power and not just letting things slide. And so that's what's best for everybody.
Yeah.
My mission is to create a bridge between highly intelligent and skilled POC youth and corporations that value and benefit from their talents. Mentorship is also important because it's different than getting in a classroom setting where you're listening to what should be done versus someone taking the time to show you how it could be done and really take on whatever lessons that they've learned, passing that baton back on to the mentee. Corporate social investment is inevitable. However, it's not always intentional. And those are some of the things that I'd like to see. When I think about describing corporate social investment, I really truly think about the corporate responsibility, which is just a part of, if you have more, you do more. The Trail Collective seeks to galvanize the wealth of experience from myself and other members from the collective to really make the community better and our youth more empowered.